As the calendar turns to March, the basketball season in the Northeast Conference begins to wind down. It's time for postseason play for St. Francis Brooklyn women's basketball here on the Terrier Sports Network. Alongside women's basketball analyst and former Cornell forward Megan Hughes-Perry, I'm Jason Guerrette, and this is an interesting season to say the least for St. Francis women's basketball. It didn't start out the best. There was an 8-game losing streak before conference play and at the very start of conference play, but the Terriers have picked it up quite nicely late in the season.
The Terriers have really turned it around, Jason. I think what they've done most effectively over the course of the season is they've challenged themselves early on with a very tough non-conference schedule. And I think it's been about the three seniors. I think it's been about Ailey Simpson, Sarah Benedetti, and Jamie Vinay, who as veterans have carried the load and helped them finish strong as they moved into the conference play.
You mentioned that non-conference schedule for St. Francis Brooklyn. That was part of the losing streak, although two of the games were very close losses to Vermont at home, a good team in the America East, and also Georgia Tech, a team in the ACC that the Terriers took down to the final minutes, which was very impressive for them, certainly at the time, but it still remains impressive now.
Their efforts were very impressive, and most specifically, I think, against Georgia Tech, a team out of the ACC, one of the power conferences. They played them very tight here at home and showed them what they're really capable of, and I think over the course of the season, that boded well for their confidence.
Now, that 8-game losing streak that we mentioned for St. Francis Brooklyn was snapped with a win at FDU, and that really kick-started the Terriers in terms of getting on a roll with the veterans that you mentioned and with certainly shooting the ball in conference play. Sarah Benedetti, in particular, kicked off a stretch of play where she was unbelievable. 16.3 points, shooting 37% from the three-point line since that win at FDU.
Sarah Benedetti has been so impressive. We all know about what she can do from behind the three-point line. She can really fill it up very quickly. But this year, she's added some other dimensions to her game. Her ability with her size to be able to post up down low on the block and finish strong inside has really added another dimension and poses another threat on the court. I think has been really important for not only her game but for the overall team.
To another dimension to her game that you mentioned that she has added is she's passing the ball a heck of a lot better than she was earlier in her career. 3 or more assists 7 times in that 14-game span since that win on January 12th at Fairleigh Dickinson. She's also scored 20 or more points 5 times in that stretch. She's been back to being Sarah Benedetti that we've seen the last couple of years.
Sarah Benedetti, we all know when she steps on the floor, it's game on. And speaking of Sacred Heart, what we're going to talk about in a little bit, she lit them up. She had 6 3-pointers in their last meeting and finished with 23 points. So she's definitely a threat from behind the arc. We talk about her passing ability and her post-up game. So she's ready, and she's going to probably lead the way for the Terriers.
Another senior forward that has been getting it done lately for the Terriers in a huge way is Jamie Vinay, a Northeast Conference Player of the Week award recently for Vinay, and she certainly deserved it. The last 7 games, 3 double-doubles, over 20 points and over 8.5 rebounds per game, shooting the ball close to 50%. She has been on fire.
I don't think you can ask for much more from Jamie Vinay this season. She's really turned it on very late in the season, but it's exactly what her team needs. She's very aggressive scoring on the inside, and that mentality, I think, carries over and is contagious amongst her other teammates.
And she's always been aggressive, Jamie Vinay has, but lately the shooting percentages have really upped those numbers even more. Earlier in the season, she wasn't necessarily shooting the ball as well as she is now, and there was a 5-game stretch where she just was basically unstoppable. 20 points and 12 rebounds in that game against Sacred Heart that you mentioned, 21 against Wagner, 25 and 14 rebounds on senior day against St. Francis University. In a loss here at the Pope Center to Fairleigh Dickinson, she hit for a career-high 31. Each of those last 4 games in that 5-game stretch, she either tied or set a new career high. There was nobody in this conference that could stop her.
Jamie Vinay is so dangerous on the floor, Jason, because of her versatility. She can stroke it from the outside. She's strong inside with her post game. And I think what's been so great recently is her ability to position and get easy baskets, not only in the half court, but in transition. So I think as long as you allow her to get that strong positioning and she's able to get touches on the places on the floor that she's most comfortable, she's going to be unstoppable.
We mentioned the 3 seniors who have carried the team for the last really couple of years, Sarah Benedetti, Jamie Vinay, Ailey Simpson. The most remarkable thing about the Terriers' recent stretch of successful play is that Benedetti and Vinay have literally carried the Terriers on their backs because Ailey Simpson has been shut down for the most part lately in the last 5 games or so.
Ailey Simpson, you're correct, has not given the scoring power that the Terriers are really used to, but she does other things on the floor that are just as effective and help her team. But I think we're really going to have to see Ailey Simpson step it up in the scoring column. She's very much needed that offensive production, and hopefully she can get going very early.
And The Terriers got a win over Bryant on the road, which is impressive considering where Bryant has finished in the NEC this season. Simpson picked up the scoring a little bit with 15 points in that ball game. Now, moving into the NEC Tournament quarterfinals, the Terriers, as the 5 seed this year, will take on the number 4 seed Sacred Heart. That matchup is already determined. It will happen on Sunday afternoon at a time to be announced. Keep it locked to the Northeast Conference website for all of those announcements. But the Terriers and Sacred Heart played 2 completely different times this season and 2 completely different games as well. The Terriers opened up NEC play in Fairfield at Sacred Heart and did not really have a competitive game of it in part of that 8-game losing streak that we mentioned. But here at the Pope Center, we mentioned Sarah Benedetti's contributions with 6 3-pointers. They blew the Pioneers out for the 2nd straight year on this floor. So 2 completely different games, but 2 completely different Terrier teams playing in those games.
Absolutely. The first matchup of the season we talked about in conference play, the Terriers really struggled with turnovers. They turned the ball over 20-plus times, and that's just not going to get it done. And when you're at home with your home fans behind you, they played a lot better. And I think one thing they did very, very well is they got out and they got easy shots. So seeing the Terriers get in transition, and when that 3 ball starts to fall, other things open up for them. So we look for them to start off quickly and for the 3-point arc to be really friendly to them.
3-point arc was certainly friendly in that ball game. Sarah Benedetti with 6 3-pointers, 23 points, all in the second half of that basketball game. So this is a team that the Terriers have seen and played well against in the past. So it'll be interesting to see, with them playing so well late in the season, including that victory over Bryant. They're playing LIU in a couple miles from here at the Steinberg Wellness Center as we speak. But playing well late in the season with the veterans that they have, it'll be interesting to see how they take on the Pioneers on the road this time around.
I think they'll be ready. I think Coach Thurston has really armed them with a very strong game plan, and I think one thing the Terriers have always relied upon, if it's not been on offense, it's been their defense. They rank first in the NEC in that scoring defense, and I think if for some reason the shots are not flowing, I think they're really going to fall back and just trust that they can get some stops.
Trust has been a huge part of St. Francis Brooklyn's game lately, especially this season with a senior class that has played together so long. 3 1,000-point scorers in the class, the most successful class in program history, and it's not even up for debate. It's interesting whenever a senior class gets into postseason play, there's the certain element of we don't want our careers to end, and a certain amount of desperation that comes with that. How do you think that the Terriers will manifest that in the game against Sacred Heart on Sunday?
I think it will show up in a sense of urgency and passion. I think it will really show very early in the game with the level of intensity the Terriers come out and that they play with. They're going to play for their seniors. The underclassmen are playing for their seniors, and the seniors are playing for one more opportunity. So I think we'll see it in that level of intensity on defense starting, and hopefully that translates over to the offensive end.
NEC women's basketball quarterfinal, St. Francis Brooklyn at Sacred Heart on Sunday. Time still yet to be determined. Keep it locked to NEC Front Row and all of the websites that you know well, sfcathletics.com, northeastconference.org. For Megan Hughes Perry, I'm Jason Guerrette for the Terrier Sports Network.